The scene opens with a haunting silence that fills the void of space. A distant star, once a beacon of life and light, begins to collapse. Its fiery surface twists and churns, pulling inward as if consumed by an unseen force. The star's golden glow fades into a deep, crimson hue, and then, with a sudden violent lurch, it implodes. A black hole is born, a ravenous, swirling abyss that devours everything in its grasp. Nearby, a solar system teeters on the edge of annihilation. Planets tremble as their orbits destabilize, drawn toward the growing maw of darkness. Asteroids shatter into dust, their remnants spiraling into the void like moths to a flame. The light of distant stars bends and fractures, distorted by the black hole's immense gravity. Amid this chaos, ships from alien civilizations gather in desperation. Sleek vessels of varying shapes and sizes, each a testament to their creator's ingenuity, dart around the black hole, firing beams of energy and deploying devices in a futile attempt to contain the disaster. The efforts are valiant but hopeless. The black hole grows stronger, pulling entire moons into its grasp. A voice crackles over the comms of one alien ship, trembling with fear. "We can't hold it. It's too strong." Another responds, "If we fail, billions will die." Suddenly, the darkness is pierced by a brilliant flash of light. From the depths of hyperspace, a colossal ship emerges, the HSS Aegis. Its sheer size dwarfs every other vessel in the area, its metallic hull shimmering with an ethereal glow. The ship moves with purpose, its presence commanding awe and silence. The narrator's voice, calm yet powerful, echoes through the scene. For centuries, humanity was seen as a fledgling race, unworthy of the galactic stage. But when faced with the impossible, they proved their worth not through words, but through action. The HSS Aegis positions itself between the black hole and the endangered solar system. Its gravitational stabilizers hum to life, emitting waves of energy that ripple through space. The black hole resists, its pull relentless, but the Aegis holds firm. Slowly, the spiraling chaos begins to subside. The planets regain their orbits, the debris settles, and the black hole's hunger is tamed. On board the alien ships, silence gives way to murmurs of disbelief. How did they do that?" one alien whispers. Another, staring at the Aegis with wide eyes, mutters, "The humans, they saved us." As the black hole stabilizes, the HSS Aegis powers down its systems, its mission complete. It lingers for a moment, a silent guardian, before vanishing back into hyperspace, leaving behind a stunned and grateful audience. The scene shifts to Seal Starus Station, a magnificent structure floating amidst a sea of stars. Here, the leaders of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations gather in a grand chamber, their faces a mix of curiosity and caution. The conversation is hushed but intense. "They've never been part of the council," one leader says, their voice tinged with skepticism. "Perhaps they should be," another counters. "No one else could have stopped that black hole." For the first time in history, humanity is invited to join the Galactic Council. The decision is not made lightly, but the display of ingenuity and courage from the HSS Aegis leaves little room for doubt. Humanity, once seen as insignificant, has taken its first step onto the galactic stage. The narrator's voice returns, carrying a tone of quiet triumph. In the face of darkness, humanity proved that even the smallest spark can reignite hope. The stars would never look at them the same way again. The grand halls of Seal Starus Station stretched endlessly, a masterpiece of alien architecture that seemed to shimmer and shift as if alive. The walls were adorned with glowing glyphs, pulsating faintly with a rhythm that felt like the heartbeat of the galaxy itself. Towering pillars of crystalline light reached into the vaulted ceiling, where constellations of distant stars danced in a mesmerizing, ever-changing pattern. The air was heavy with an unspoken tension, a mix of awe and suspicion, as the most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered in one place. Seated in a circular chamber, the leaders of the galaxy's greatest civilizations observed each other with careful, calculating gazes. Each figure was a symbol of their people's might, their presence radiating authority and power. Zyrek, the representative of the Azar Dominion, sat cloaked in shadows, his form barely visible beneath a dark, flowing mantle. His eyes glinted like shards of obsidian, sharp and unyielding. His voice, when he spoke, was low and serpentine, carrying the weight of secrets and whispers. The Azar Dominion was a civilization built on stealth, espionage, and the art of manipulation, and Zyrek embodied these traits with an unsettling ease. Beside him stood Kalar the Vrax Imperium, a towering figure clad in intricate ceremonial armor that gleamed like molten gold. Her posture was rigid, her gaze fierce, and every movement she made exuded the confidence of a warrior who had seen countless battles. The Vrax Imperium was a civilization of conquest, their strength forged in the fires of war, and Kalar was their unyielding blade. Across the chamber, Thyrix, the representative of the Hive Nexus, stood motionless. Their form was humanoid but unsettlingly alien, their features shifting subtly as if they were a composite of many beings. When Thyrix spoke, their voice was not singular but a harmony of countless tones, a chilling reminder that they were not one, but many, a collective intelligence bound by a single purpose. Next to Thyrix sat Kragos, the stoic leader of the Obsidian Collective. His skin was like polished stone, his eyes deep and unblinking. He radiated a quiet strength, the kind that came from weathering storms rather than seeking them. The Obsidian Collective prided themselves on their resilience, their ability to endure and adapt, and Kragos was a living testament to their philosophy. Finally, there was Lunara, the representative of the Etherian Concord. She seemed to glow softly, her form surrounded by a halo of shimmering light. Her presence was calming, almost otherworldly, and her voice carried a melodic quality that resonated in the hearts of all who heard it. The Etherian Concord was a civilization of peace and enlightenment, and Lunara embodied their ideals with serene grace. The chamber grew quiet as Commander Elias Carter, humanity's representative, entered. He was unassuming compared to the towering presence of Kalar or the ethereal glow of Lunara. Dressed in a simple uniform, Carter carried himself with a calm confidence, his eyes scanning the room with quiet determination. The alien leaders exchanged skeptical glances, their whispers barely audible but laden with doubt. "Humans," Zyrek sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "Always late to the stars, yet eager to prove themselves." Carter turned to face him, a polite smile on his lips. "We may be new," he said evenly, "but we've learned quickly. Actions speak louder than words, don't they?" A murmur rippled through the chamber at Carter's response, some amused, others intrigued. The council began as each civilization presented their most advanced technologies, a display of power and pride meant to assert their dominance. Zyrek was the first. With a wave of his hand, a holographic image of the Phantom Dagger appeared. The ship was sleek and predatory, its surface seeming to ripple like liquid shadow. "The Phantom Dagger," Zyrek said with a sly smile. "Completely invisible to all known sensors. A ghost among ships." Kalar stepped forward next, her voice booming with pride. "Behold the planet Cleaver," she declared as an image of a massive dreadnought filled the chamber. Its design was brutal and imposing, bristling with weaponry. Capable of splitting moons in half with a single strike. Thyrix followed, their many voices blending into one. The Swarm Nexus, they intoned as a fleet of synchronized drones appeared. The sheer number of them was overwhelming, moving in perfect harmony like a living organism. Numbers beyond comprehension. coordination beyond imagination. Kragos was next. He raised a hand, and an image of the Titan's shield appeared, a shimmering barrier that seemed impenetrable. The ultimate defense, he said simply. No force in the galaxy can breach it. Finally, Lunara stepped forward, her glowing form casting a soft light over the chamber. The Mind Shard, she said, her voice like a soothing melody. A crystalline object appeared, radiating waves of psychic energy. A weapon of the mind, capable of disabling entire fleets without a single shot fired. The alien leaders turned to Carter, their gazes expectant. And what of humanity? Zyrek asked, his tone mocking. What marvels have you brought to the table? Carter smiled, his expression calm and unreadable. Our ship will arrive tomorrow, he said simply. I think you'll find it enlightening. The chamber fell silent, the alien leaders exchanging puzzled glances. There was something in Carter's tone, a quiet confidence that unsettled even the most skeptical among them. As the council session ended, the leaders left the chamber, their minds abuzz with questions. What could humanity possibly bring to the table that would rival the wonders they had just witnessed? In the quiet halls of Seal Starr Station, the anticipation grew, a silent storm waiting to break. And in the hearts of the alien leaders, a seed of curiosity began to take root, a curiosity that would soon grow into something far greater. The observation dome of Seal Starr Station was a masterpiece of design, a place where the boundaries between technology and nature blurred. Its walls were made of transparent crystalline material, offering an unbroken view of the infinite cosmos. Stars glittered like scattered jewels on an endless black canvas, their light soft and distant, yet eternal. The faint hum of the station's energy fields was the only sound, a subtle reminder of the advanced technology that kept them alive in the harsh void of space. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation. The alien leaders stood in silence, their postures tense, their gazes fixed on the stars beyond. There was something unspoken in the air, a shared unease that none of them dared voice. Even the ever-confident Kaler of the Vrax Imperium seemed subdued, her armored hands gripping the railing tightly. Then, without warning, the stars began to disappear. One by one, their light was swallowed, as if a great shadow was devouring the heavens. A ripple of unease passed through the room. Kragos, ever stoic, narrowed his stone-like eyes. Lunara's radiant glow dimmed slightly, her serene expression faltering. From the depths of the void, it emerged. The HSS Aegis did not simply arrive, it materialized, its massive form tearing through the fabric of space with an almost predatory grace. It moved slowly, deliberately, as though it had no need to rush. The ship was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Its surface gleamed with an otherworldly sheen, a dark, polished metal that seemed to drink in the faint starlight around it. Its silhouette was both elegant and imposing, a perfect balance between beauty and menace. For a moment, no one spoke. The great leaders of the galaxy, beings who commanded entire civilizations, stood frozen in awe. The silence was deafening, filled only with the unspoken weight of what they were witnessing. The narrator's voice seemed to echo in their minds, a quiet yet powerful whisper that carried the essence of humanity's story. While others built ships to conquer, humanity built one to protect. The HSS Aegis was not a weapon of war, but a shield for peace. The words hung in the air, resonating deeply. They were bold, almost defiant, a challenge to the very nature of power as the galaxy had known it. As the Aegis drew closer, its details came into focus. The hull was lined with sleek, angular railguns, their dark barrels gleaming faintly. These weapons seemed alive, as though they were not merely tools of destruction, but guardians, watchful and ready. There was a strange beauty to them, a sense of purpose that went beyond violence. Beneath the railguns, faintly glowing compartments housed the Starfire warheads. These were no ordinary weapons. They carried within them the power of a controlled supernova, capable of reshaping the very fabric of space. The thought of such destructive potential sent a shiver through the gathered leaders. Even Kaler, who had boasted of the planet cleaver the day before, felt her confidence waver. Yet, it was not the weapons that commanded the most attention. Surrounding the ship was a shimmering field of layered shields, their energy rippling like liquid light. They glowed faintly, a soft, shifting spectrum of colors that seemed to pulse with life. These shields were not merely barriers, they were a statement, a promise of resilience and protection. Deep within the heart of the Aegis was something even more extraordinary. EOS, the ship's sentient artificial intelligence, pulsed with a quiet, steady awareness. It was not cold or mechanical, but alive in a way that was both unsettling and awe-inspiring. EOS analyzed threats with precision, but it also carried something more, a moral compass, a sense of ethics that guided its actions. It was a reminder that power, in the hands of humanity, was tempered with responsibility. The Aegis came to a halt, settling into orbit above the station. Its presence was overwhelming, a silent titan watching over the fragile beings below. The council chamber remained silent, the leaders grappling with what they had just witnessed. Finally, it was Lunara who broke the silence. Her voice, usually calm and melodic, carried a note of hesitation. "Why create such a ship?" she asked, her glowing form leaning slightly forward. Her question was not accusatory, but curious, tinged with a hint of concern. Carter stepped forward, his expression steady. His voice was calm, yet it carried a weight that demanded attention. "Because humanity learned the hard way," he began, his words slow and deliberate. "Strength is not for domination, but for protection." The simplicity of his statement struck a chord. It was not a boast, but a truth forged in the fires of humanity's struggles. Carter's eyes swept across the room, meeting the gaze of each leader in turn. "We've seen what happens when power is used to conquer. We've seen the cost of war, the price of arrogance. The Aegis is not a weapon, it's a promise. A promise that we will stand, not to rule, but to protect." The room fell silent once more, but this time, the silence was different. It was not the silence of awe or fear, but of understanding. Kaler's grip on the railing loosened, her fierce expression softening. Kragos tilted his head slightly, as though re-evaluating everything he thought he knew. Even Zyrek, ever the skeptic, seemed momentarily lost in thought, his shadowed face unreadable. The Aegis loomed above them, its presence undeniable. But it was no longer just a ship. It was a symbol, a testament to humanity's journey, their struggles, and their hope for a better future. And in that moment, as the leaders of the galaxy gazed upon the vessel, the seeds of doubt began to fade. In their place, a fragile but growing understanding took root. Perhaps, just perhaps, humanity's strength could be the light that the galaxy so desperately needed. The council chamber was still heavy with the weight of humanity's revelation when the first alarm shattered the silence. A shrill, piercing wail reverberated through Seal Starra Station, cutting through the air like the scream of a wounded beast. The alien leaders froze, their gazes snapping toward the observation dome as the stars outside seemed to ripple unnaturally. The hum of the station's energy fields faltered, dimming for a fleeting moment before stabilizing again. The faint shimmer of the station's protective barriers flickered, like a candle struggling against an unseen wind. Then, from the edge of the void, they appeared. The ships of the void did not emerge, they bled into existence, as though the fabric of space itself had been torn open to let them through. They were grotesque, organic monstrosities, their surfaces pulsating like the flesh of some ancient, otherworldly creature. Their forms were asymmetrical and chaotic, a nightmare-given shape. They glowed faintly with a sickly, greenish hue, as if they carried the poison of the universe itself within them. The air in the chamber grew colder, as though the very presence of these ships had drained the warmth from the station. A low, almost imperceptible hum began to fill the room, not mechanical, but alive, like the vibration of countless unseen wings. Zyrek, who had until now been the epitome of calm and cunning, took a step back. His voice trembled, a crack in his carefully constructed facade. "It's them," he whispered, his obsidian eyes wide with something that looked disturbingly like fear. "The ones who consume entire systems. They've never come this far before." The other leaders exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence wavering. Even Kaler, the warrior of the Vrax Imperium, seemed momentarily shaken. Her golden armor caught the dim light, but her fierce gaze was fixed on the nightmare unfolding outside the dome. The void ships moved with an unsettling grace, their movements fluid and predatory. They did not fire conventional weapons, instead, tendrils of energy lashed out from their surfaces, striking the station's defenses with terrifying precision. The station's shields, once a symbol of impenetrable strength, flickered and buckled under the assault. The room was filled with the sound of alarms and the panic murmurs of council aides. Thyrix, the collective intelligence of the Hive Nexus, spoke in their eerie, multi-tone voice. "They are dismantling the station's defenses. We cannot hold them off." A deep sense of dread settled over the chamber. These beings were not conquerors or rivals, they were annihilators, a force of nature that consumed everything in their path. It was Carter who broke the paralysis. He stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos with calm authority. "Let us help," he said, his words firm but not pleading. The Aegis was built for moments like this. The alien leaders turned to him, their expressions a mixture of skepticism and desperation. Zyrek's gaze narrowed, his fear momentarily replaced by suspicion. "And why should we trust you?" he hissed. "For all we know, this could be your doing." Carter met his gaze without flinching. "Because you don't have a choice," he said simply. His words were not a threat, but a stark truth. "We don't want to conquer. We don't want to rule. But we will protect. Let us prove it." Lunara, her radiant form flickering with unease, stepped forward. Her voice was softer, but no less urgent. "We must decide quickly," she said, her glowing eyes fixed on the void ships. "If we do not act as one, we will fall as many." Kaler, ever the warrior, clenched her fists and nodded. "If the humans can fight, let them fight," she said, her voice steady but grim. "We cannot afford to let pride blind us." One by one, the leaders gave their reluctant agreement. Even Zyrek, though his expression remained wary, nodded. Carter wasted no time. He activated his communicator, his voice calm but commanding. "Aegis, this is Carter. Engage defensive protocols. Protect the station at all costs." Outside, the HSS Aegis came alive. Its shimmering shields flared with renewed intensity, casting a protective glow over the station. The railguns along its hull rotated with precision, locking onto the nearest void ships. The first volley was both beautiful and terrifying. Streams of kinetic energy shot through the void, striking the organic ships with unerring accuracy. The void ships recoiled, their pulsating surfaces writhing as if in pain. But they did not retreat. Instead, they turned their attention to the Aegis, their tendrils lashing out with ferocious speed. The impact was deafening, but the Aegis held firm. Its layered shields absorbed the blows, shimmering with each strike but refusing to break. The ship moved with calculated precision, positioning itself between the station and the void fleet. Inside the observation dome, the alien leaders watched in stunned silence. For the first time, they saw humanity not as a threat, but as a shield, a force willing to stand against the darkness. Carter turned to the council. "This isn't just about the station," he said, his voice steady. "If we don't stop them here, they'll keep going. They'll consume everything." "Thyrix," their many voices now tinged with urgency, responded. "What do you propose?" "Unity," Carter said simply. "Your fleets, your technology, your people, we need them. Together, we can push them back. Alone, we'll fall." The leaders hesitated, their pride and mistrust warring with the reality of the situation. But as they watched the Aegis hold the line, its shields glowing like a beacon in the darkness, the choice became clear. Kaler was the first to speak. "The Vrax Imperium stands with you," she said, her voice resolute. One by one, the others followed. Lunara, her glow now steady, nodded. "The Etherian Concord will lend its strength." Thyrix, Kragos, even Zyrak all agreed. For the first time in galactic history, the great civilizations stood as one. As the void ships continued their relentless assault, the council leaders sent their orders. Across the galaxy, fleets mobilized, alliances were forged, and a united front began to take shape. And in the heart of the chaos, the HSS Aegis stood as the first line of defense, a symbol of humanity's promise, and a beacon of hope in the face of annihilation. The void outside Seal Staris Station was alive with chaos, a swirling maelstrom of light and shadow. The battle had begun. The HSS Aegis surged forward like a predator, its sleek form cutting through the darkness with unrelenting purpose. Its railguns roared, each shot a lance of pure destruction that tore through the grotesque forms of the void ships. The sound of the blasts reverberated through the station's walls, a deep, thunderous rhythm that seemed to shake the very bones of those within. The void ships writhed as they were struck, their organic hulls splitting open to reveal glowing, pulsing innards. But for every one destroyed, two more seemed to emerge from the abyss, their tendrils lashing out hungrily. The station's shields flared with each strike, their shimmering energy barely holding against the onslaught. Above the chaos, the alien fleets began to move. Ships from every corner of the galaxy descended upon the battlefield, their designs as varied as the stars themselves. The sleek, crystalline vessels of the Etherian Concord glided gracefully alongside the brutal, spiked warships of the Vrax Imperium. The Hive Nexus swarmed in with countless smaller craft, each one moving in perfect, eerie unison. For the first time, they fought together not as rivals, but as allies. And at the center of it all was the Aegis, its shields glowing like a beacon in the darkness. Lunara, her radiant form glowing brighter than ever, stood at the heart of the station's command room. In her hands, she held the Mind Shard, an ancient artifact that pulsed with a strange, otherworldly light. Her eyes were closed, her expression serene yet strained, as though she were carrying the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. The Mind Shard flared, sending out invisible waves of energy that rippled through the battlefield. The void ships faltered, their movements growing sluggish and disorganized. Lunara's voice, soft and melodic, echoed in the minds of her allies. "Their minds are chaos," she said. "I can disrupt them, but I cannot hold them for long." Kaler, aboard her flagship, seized the opportunity. The Planet Cleaver, a weapon of terrifying power, was primed and ready. The warrior's golden armor gleamed as she gave the order, her voice a fierce roar that carried across the comms. Fire! The Planet Cleaver unleashed its fury, a beam of searing energy that cut through the darkness like a blade. It struck the largest of the void ships, a massive, mothership-like entity that loomed over the battlefield. The ship's organic surface bubbled and burned, its tendrils thrashing wildly as it began to collapse in on itself. The explosion was blinding, a burst of green and black energy that rippled outward, consuming smaller void ships in its wake. The battlefield fell silent for a brief moment, the sheer power of the strike leaving even the most battle-hardened warriors in stunned silence. But the void was not finished. From the depths of the abyss, more ships emerged, their numbers seemingly endless. The station trembled as another wave of attacks struck its shields, and the air grew thick with a scent of ozone and fear. Carter, aboard the Aegis, stood at the center of the command deck, his face grim but determined. His voice carried through the chaos, steady and unyielding. "Deploy the Starfire warheads," he ordered. The Aegis moved into position, its sleek hull glowing with the energy of the warheads it carried. The weapons were humanity's last resort, each one containing the power of a controlled supernova. The ship's drones swarmed around it, their small, agile forms intercepting void tendrils and shielding the station from harm. The warheads were launched, streaking through the void like falling stars. They struck the heart of the void fleet, their impact triggering a chain reaction of explosions that lit up the darkness. The void ships disintegrated, their organic forms consumed by the fiery brilliance of the blasts. The battlefield was a kaleidoscope of light and shadow, the explosions casting long, flickering shadows across the station. The void ships began to retreat, their once relentless advance broken. The survivors fled back into the abyss, their eerie hum fading into silence. The station was saved, but the cost was heavy. The observation dome was cracked, its once pristine surface marred by the scars of battle. Fires burned in the distance, their orange glow casting an eerie light over the scene. The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke and burned metal. Carter stood before the council, his uniform torn and bloodied. His face was pale, his eyes heavy with exhaustion, but his posture was unyielding. He looked at each of the alien leaders in turn, his gaze steady and resolute. "This is what we stand for," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "Not conquest. Not domination. But protection. Unity." The leaders were silent, their expressions a mixture of awe and respect. Even Zyrek, ever the skeptic, seemed humbled. Lunara stepped forward, her glow dim but steady. "We owe you our lives," she said softly. "And perhaps, our future?" Kaler nodded, her fierce gaze softened. "You fought not for yourselves, but for all of us. That is a strength we cannot ignore." The room fell silent once more, the weight of the moment settling over them. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The void had been pushed back, but they would return. And when they did, the galaxy would stand together united, stronger, and ready to face the darkness. The council chamber was filled with a quiet hum of tension, not the kind born of distrust, but the weight of decisions that would shape the future of the galaxy. The alien leaders, each representing civilizations with histories as vast and complex as the stars themselves, sat in a semicircle, their gazes fixed on Carter. The human commander stood at the center, his presence commanding not through force, but through conviction. The faint light of distant stars filtered through the chamber's massive observation window, casting a soft glow over the room. Beyond it, the wreckage of the void fleet drifted silently, a grim reminder of the battle that had been fought and the cost of their survival. Zyrek, the syndicate representative, leaned forward in his chair, his sharp, angular features shadowed by the dim light. His voice, usually edged with skepticism, carried a tone of reluctant admiration. "Perhaps we underestimated you, human," he said, his words slow and deliberate, almost as if admitting them pained him. "You've shown us something we hadn't seen in millennia, a strength that is not rooted in conquest, but in unity. That is, unexpected." Kaler, the Vrax warlord, let out a low, approving growl. Her golden armor, scarred and battered from countless battles, gleamed faintly in the starlight. Strength tempered with wisdom, she said, her voice deep and resonant. It is a rare combination. Even rarer among those who wield power. Carter met their gazes, his own steady and unwavering. His uniform was torn, stained with blood and ash, but he stood tall, his presence unshaken by the trials he had endured. "We didn't fight this battle alone," he began, his voice calm but filled with purpose. "We fought it together. And that is the lesson we must carry forward." The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling over the gathered leaders. Even Kragos, the towering representative of the Titan clans, who rarely spoke unless it was to issue a challenge, seemed to lean in, his massive arms crossed as he listened. Carter continued, his tone growing stronger. "Humanity doesn't seek to lead. We don't seek to dominate. We seek to protect, to learn, to grow. Alone, we are vulnerable. But together, we are unstoppable. Together, we can ensure that no force void or otherwise can ever threaten the peace of this galaxy again." Lunara, her ethereal form glowing softly, stepped forward. Her presence was calming, like the gentle light of a distant star. "Your actions have spoken louder than any words," she said, her voice melodic and soothing. "You've shown us that unity is not a weakness, but a strength. A strength that transcends borders, species, and histories." Thyrix, the Hive Nexus representative, tilted their many-eyed head, their collective voices buzzing in unison. "The void has reminded us of a truth we had long forgotten," they said. "That survival is not the burden of one, but the responsibility of all. Alone, even the strongest falters. Together, we endure." Kragos let out a low rumble, his massive frame shifting as he uncrossed his arms. "You fought with honor," he said simply, his deep voice resonating through the chamber. "And you fought for more than yourselves. That is a strength even we, the Titans, can respect." Zyrek, ever the skeptic, allowed a faint smile to play across his lips. "Perhaps there is more to your kind than I thought," he said, his tone lighter now, almost playful. "You've earned my respect, human. And that is no small feat." Carter nodded, his expression one of quiet determination. "Then let us make it official," he said, his voice steady. "A pact. An alliance. Not just to defend against the void, but to ensure that no darkness, no threat can ever divide us again. Together, we can build a future where every civilization, every voice, has a place." The silence that followed was heavy, but it was not the silence of doubt. It was the silence of decision, of resolve. One by one, the leaders nodded, their expressions firm. Kaler was the first to speak. "The Vrax Imperium agrees," she said, her voice strong. "We will stand with you." Lunara followed, her glow brightening. "The Etherian Concord will lend its wisdom and light to this alliance." Thyrix's many voices chimed in unison. "The Hive Nexus joins this pact. Together, we are stronger." Even Zyrek, with his ever-present smirk, inclined his head. "The Syndicate will honor this alliance. For now." And so, the Interstellar Defense Pact was born. It was more than an agreement, it was a promise. A promise that the galaxy would no longer be divided by fear, greed, or pride. A promise that, in the face of darkness, they would stand together. As the council adjourned, the leaders rose, their differences momentarily set aside. They stood as one, their gazes turning toward the observation dome. Beyond it, the stars shone brighter than ever, their light piercing the void. Outside, the Aegis moved into formation, its sleek hull gleaming with the light of countless stars. It was flanked by ships from every corner of the galaxy, the crystalline vessels of the Aetherians, the hulking warships of the Vrax, the swarming crafts of the Hive Nexus, and countless others. Together, they cut through the darkness, a fleet united not by fear, but by hope. And as the Aegis led the way, its hull glowing like a beacon, a quiet voice seemed to echo across the stars. Humanity's greatest strength was never its weapons, but its ability to unite in the face of adversity. Together, they forged a future where strength served peace, and the stars shone brighter than ever. But even as the fleet disappeared into the horizon, a faint shadow loomed in the distance. The void had been pushed back, but not destroyed. In the silence of the abyss, it waited, watching, and preparing. For now, though, the galaxy stood united, its people determined. They had faced the darkness once and they would be ready to face it again. Together. Forever. The galaxy celebrated its newfound unity, but the echoes of war lingered. Across the vast expanse of space, civilizations began to rebuild, their wounds still fresh, their losses still raw. The Interstellar Defense Pact, IDP, had become a beacon of hope, its creation heralded as the dawn of a new era. Yet, in the shadows, something stirred, a faint, insidious whisper that crept through the fabric of the cosmos. The Aegis had become more than a flagship, it was a symbol. Wherever it traveled, it inspired hope and solidarity. But for Carter and his crew, the weight of their mission grew heavier with each passing day. Reports began to trickle in from the outer fringes of the galaxy, ships vanishing without a trace, colonies left eerily silent, and strange, unexplainable phenomena. In the dimly lit war room of the Aegis, Carter stood before a holographic map of the galaxy. The faint blue light illuminated his face, etched with concern. Around him were Kaler, Lunara, Zyrek, and Thyrix, their expressions mirroring his unease. "These disappearances," Carter began, his voice steady but grim, "they are not random. They form a pattern." He gestured to the map, where glowing red markers began to connect like a web. "The void isn't retreating. It's regrouping." Kaler slammed her gauntlet fist onto the table, her golden eyes blazing. "Then we strike first," she growled. "We take the fight to them before they can strike again." Lunara's glow dimmed slightly, her voice soft but firm. "We cannot act recklessly. The void is unlike anything we've faced before. If we rush in unprepared, we risk losing everything we've built." Zyrek leaned back in his chair, his sharp features thoughtful. "The void is cunning," he said. "It doesn't just destroy, it corrupts. It finds your weaknesses and turns them against you. If we're going to face it, we need to understand it." Thyrix's many voices buzzed in agreement. "The Hive Nexus has encountered whispers of the void in the past. It is not a force of nature, but a will, a consciousness that seeks to consume and reshape. To fight it, we must first know its true form." Carter nodded, his jaw tightening. "Then we need answers. And I know where to start." The Aegis set its course for the Veil of Ancients, a region of space shrouded in mystery and legend. It was said to be the resting place of the Forgotten Archive, an ancient repository of knowledge left behind by a civilization that had vanished long before the current galactic powers rose to prominence. If there was any place that held the secrets of the void, it was there. As the Aegis approached the veil, the stars seemed to dim, their light swallowed by an unnatural darkness. The ship's sensors flickered erratically, and the crew felt an unshakable unease, as though unseen eyes were watching them. The veil was a graveyard of ships, their broken hulls drifting silently through the void. Some were ancient, their designs unrecognizable, while others bore the markings of more recent victims. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the faint hum of the Aegis engines. "This place is cursed," Kaler muttered, her hand resting on the hilt of her blade. "It's not a curse," Lunara said, her voice tinged with sadness. "It's fear. The remnants of those who came too close to the truth." The Aegis descended into the heart of the Vale, where the archive was said to lie. It was a massive structure, its surface covered in intricate carvings that seemed to shift and writhe when viewed from the corner of the eye. The air inside was heavy, filled with an unnatural stillness that pressed against the mind. As the crew explored the archive, they uncovered fragments of knowledge, records of a war fought eons ago against the void. The ancient civilization had called it the Eternal Hunger, a force that devoured not just matter, but the very essence of existence. They had sacrificed everything to seal it away, but the seal was weakening. In the deepest chamber of the archive, Carter and his team found a device, a crystalline sphere that pulsed with a faint, rhythmic light. Lunara's glow brightened as she approached it, her expression one of awe and trepidation. "This is a star heart," she whispered. "A fragment of pure cosmic energy. It's what the ancients used to create the seal. But it's incomplete." Kayla frowned, her golden eyes narrowing. "Then how do we finish it?" Before Lunara could answer, the chamber trembled. A deep, guttural hum filled the air, resonating in their bones. The shadows around them seemed to come alive, coiling and twisting like living things. "The void knows we're here," Zyrax said, his voice sharp. "We need to leave. Now." As they fled the archive, the shadows pursued them, their forms shifting and writhing. The Aegis weapons blazed, cutting through the darkness, but the void was relentless. It wasn't until Lunara channeled the energy of the star heart, creating a burst of blinding light, that the shadows recoiled, retreating into the depths of the veil. The Aegis escaped, but the crew knew their time was running out. The void was no longer a distant threat, it was awake, aware, and hungry. Back at Seal Staris Station, the leaders of the IDP convened once more. The knowledge from the archive had shaken them. The void was not just a threat to their galaxy, it was a threat to existence itself. "We cannot wait for it to come to us," Carter said, his voice firm. "We need to finish what the ancients started. We need to rebuild the seal." "But the star heart is incomplete," Lunara said. "To restore it, we'll need to gather fragments of cosmic energy from across the galaxy. Each fragment is tied to a place of great power and great danger." Kayla grinned, her teeth bared in a fierce smile. "Then we go. We fight. We take what we need." Zyrax's smirk returned, though it was tinged with unease. "This is madness," he said. "But then again, so is letting the void consume us. Count me in." And so, the IDP prepared for its most dangerous mission yet. The galaxy's greatest warriors, scholars, and explorers would embark on a journey to the farthest reaches of space, seeking the fragments that could save them or doom them all. As the Aegis departed once more, its hull gleaming like a beacon in the darkness, Carter stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the stars. "We've faced the darkness before," he said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. "And we'll face it again. Together." But deep in the abyss, the void watched and waited, its whispers growing louder. The storm was coming, and the galaxy's unity would be tested like never before. The galaxy had never seen a mission like this. The Aegis, accompanied by a fleet of allied vessels, set out on a journey to recover the fragments of cosmic energy needed to restore the star heart. Each fragment was hidden in a place of immense power, shrouded in peril and protected by ancient forces that had long been forgotten. The first destination was the Shattered Spire, a colossal asteroid field said to be the remnants of a planet destroyed in an ancient war. The fragment here pulsed faintly, buried deep within the core of a massive asteroid that radiated an unnatural energy. The asteroid field was treacherous, its jagged rocks swirling chaotically as if alive. The crew of the Aegis navigated carefully, but the closer they got to the core, the more they felt the presence of something watching them. "It's not just the void," Lunara whispered, her glow flickering. "This place remembers the destruction that created it. The energy here is restless." As they descended into the asteroid's core, they found themselves facing spectral figures, shadows of the planet's long-dead inhabitants. These phantoms attacked without mercy, their forms shifting and flickering like flames in the wind. Kaler led the charge, her golden blade cutting through the phantoms with ferocious precision. "They are not real," she growled. "They are memories given form. Keep moving." Carter and Lunara reached the fragment, a shard of glowing crystal embedded in the heart of the asteroid. As Lunara carefully extracted it, the phantoms surged, their attacks growing more desperate. Zyrek, standing guard, fired his plasma pistols with deadly accuracy. "I hate ghosts," he muttered. "Let's get out of here before they decide to get personal." With the fragment secured, the crew made a narrow escape, the asteroid collapsing behind them as if the fragment's removal had broken its fragile balance. The second fragment lay on the abyssal throne, a water world whose oceans stretched endlessly, concealing cities long submerged. The fragment was hidden in the ruins of an ancient temple, deep beneath the waves. The Aegis deployed submersible craft, descending into the dark, crushing depths. The deeper they went, the more oppressive the water became, its inky blackness seeming to press against the hulls of their vessels. In the temple, they found the fragment guarded by massive, bioluminescent creatures, leviathans that had evolved in the depths, their forms both beautiful and terrifying. The creatures attacked, their glowing tendrils lashing out with deadly force. Thyrex, whose hive nexus drones had been modified for underwater exploration, coordinated the defense. "They are drawn to the fragment's energy," Thyrex explained. "We must distract them long enough to retrieve it." While the drones created diversions, Lunara and Carter swam to the fragment, its glow illuminating the temple's crumbling walls. As Carter reached for it, the largest leviathan surged forward, its jaws opening wide. Kaler, piloting a submersible armed with harpoons, intervened, driving the creature back with a well-placed shot. "Move faster, human," she barked. With the fragment in hand, the team returned to the surface, narrowly avoiding the leviathans as the temple collapsed into the abyss. The third fragment was hidden on the scorched expanse, a barren desert world where temperatures soared to unbearable levels. The fragment was buried beneath the sands, protected by ancient machines that had once served as guardians for a long-dead civilization. The team landed under the cover of night, the only time when the planet's surface was survivable. As they searched for the fragment, the ancient machines activated, their towering forms emerging from the sands like giants awakening from slumber. "These things don't look friendly," Zyrex said, firing a shot at one of the machines. The bolt ricocheted harmlessly off its armor. "Great. They are not just big, they are invincible." Lunara studied the machines, her glow flickering as she analyzed their movements. "They are not invincible," she said. "They are following a pattern. If we disrupt their synchronization, we can disable them." Working together, the team used a combination of tactics to confuse and disable the machines. Kaler's brute strength, Zyrex's cunning, and Lunara's wisdom proved invaluable. Finally, they uncovered the fragment, its glow piercing through the sands. Carter lifted it carefully, feeling its energy pulse in his hands. As they returned to the Aegis, the first rays of the planet's brutal sun began to rise, and the desert erupted into flames behind them. The final fragment was located in the Eclipse Nexus, a region of space where light and darkness coexisted in a delicate balance. The fragment was suspended at the center of a massive gravitational anomaly, surrounded by swirling storms of energy. Reaching it required navigating through the storms, where time and space twisted unpredictably. The Aegis crew experienced strange phenomena, visions of the past, echoes of the future, and whispers of the void. "This place is alive," Lunara said, her voice trembling. "It's connected to the void. It's feeding on our fears." Carter gritted his teeth, his mind bombarded by memories of Earth's destruction and the countless lives lost. "We've come too far to stop now," he said. "Stay focused." At the heart of the anomaly, they found the fragment, a massive, glowing crystal that pulsed with raw energy. Retrieving it triggered a violent reaction, the anomaly collapsing in on itself. The Aegis barely escaped, its crew battered but victorious. With all the fragments in hand, they returned to Seal Star Station, where Lunara began the delicate process of restoring the Star Heart. As the Star Heart neared completion, the void struck. Its forces emerged from the shadows, attacking IDP strongholds across the galaxy. The unity that had been forged was tested as civilizations scrambled to defend themselves. On the bridge of the Aegis, Carter watched as reports of the attacks flooded in. "We don't have much time," he said. "The void knows what we're doing, and it's trying to stop us." Kayla grinned, her blade gleaming. "Let it come. We'll show it what happens when it underestimates us." Lunara worked tirelessly, her glow dimming as she poured her energy into the Star Heart. "It's almost ready," she said. "But we'll need to activate it at the source of the void's power. That's the only way to seal it for good." Thyrix buzzed in agreement. "The Hive Nexus has analyzed the void's movements. Its core lies in the eternal abyss, a region of space where no light has ever reached." Carter nodded, his expression grim. "Then that's where we'll go. This ends now." The final battle awaited. The fleet of the Interstellar Defense Pact, led by the Aegis, prepared to face the void in its own domain. The stars seemed to vanish as they entered the eternal abyss, the darkness pressing against them like a living thing. The void's forces swarmed, their shapes shifting and writhing, their very presence a corruption of reality. The Allied fleet fought valiantly, their unity a beacon of hope in the darkness. At the heart of the abyss, the void's core loomed a massive, pulsating mass of darkness that seemed to devour all light. Carter, Lunara, and a small team descended into its depths, carrying the completed Star Heart. As they approached the core, the void spoke not in words, but in feelings. Fear. Doubt. Despair. It tried to break them, to turn them against each other. But they stood firm. Together, they activated the Star Heart, its light piercing through the darkness. The void screamed, its form unraveling as the seal reformed, trapping it once more. The battle was over. The galaxy was saved. But the cost was great, and the scars would remain. As the Aegis emerged from the abyss, its crew battered but triumphant, the stars seemed to shine brighter, their light a promise of hope and renewal. And so, the galaxy entered a new era, not one of fear, but of unity. Together, they had faced the darkness. Together, they had prevailed. And together, they would rebuild.